Modern day life can be incredibly stressful. We have responsibilities, pressure, relationships, physical and mental stress, and environmental stress that are all attacking us from every angle. And here's the real kicker. Stress depletes us of essential nutrients, minerals, and enzymes that helps us cope with it. Without them, we would be full of disease and illness. So what can we do? We can certainly have a healthier diet full of these essential vitamins, but what if this isn't enough? What if our environments are so stressful and toxic that it becomes incredibly difficult to store adequate amounts of nutrients to thrive and stave off disease? If stress wasn't enough, we now have to deal with constant heavy metal exposure, electromagnetic fields, air pollutants, and pesticides in our food. If this is the case, then perhaps this man-made problem requires a man-made solution. Hi, my name is Alex Denver. I'm a health and performance coach, and I help high performers find their zone by optimizing their health. And in this video, you're going to learn which supplements to take, why you should be taking them if you are potentially nutrient deficient, especially in today's modern world. And by the end of it, I'm going to give you a 2-step process to ensuring that your body and your mind has all the nutrients it needs to thrive and perform at its highest potential. So the argument goes that if we ate like our ancestors, a whole food diet, lived in accordance with Mother Nature, that we shouldn't need to supplement. But we no longer live like our ancestors. They only had acute stressors. They weren't surrounded by heavy metals. There wasn't any pollutants in their water or their food. And they definitely didn't have constant EMF exposure. So in today's modern world, perhaps we need to intervene with what Mother Nature has intended for us and actually provide a solution through supplementation where necessary. And that's because, like I said, stress depletes us of certain nutrients, and we live in a hyper-stressed environment. And I'm not talking about the stress from just running a business, I'm talking about the stresses on our body, including the heavy metals, the EMFs. These are all stresses on our body, and we require certain nutrients to keep our body at tip-top condition. Now, to tackle this problem, we first need to understand how stress works within the body. Stress requires energy, and your body produces energy via your mitochondria. These are the powerhouse of your cell. And these guys require nutrients, minerals, and coenzymes to function properly. And you can get this from food, but again, if we're living in a hyper-stressed environment, attacked by all these angles, we need to consider perhaps supplementing with certain vitamins and minerals so that we can function at our best. Because it just so happens that stress has a bidirectional link with certain minerals, such as magnesium. So the more stressed you become, the greater the need there is for these nutrients and minerals. And these vitamins, minerals, and cofactors are also essential for our body to be able to recover, to grow, to repair, and defend itself from outside toxins and stresses. And one of the body's main defense mechanisms from outside stresses or toxins is our antioxidant system. So we need to be able to support these systems in order to stave off disease and prevent it from manifesting within the body. And we can start supporting this system by giving it those essential elements such as zinc, magnesium, copper, and selenium. On top of that, we need to be supporting our master antioxidant, glutathione. This is the daddy or the king of antioxidants. And if this is depleted, our body as a whole is not going to be functioning at its best, including your immune system. So we need to be ensuring other nutrients that help support glutathione, so such as vitamin E, vitamin C, and even NAC or N-acetylcysteine. This is a precursor to glutathione. So here's what you need to do. 2 things. Number 1, you need to minimize your exposure while supporting the body's defense systems. And then number 2, you need to supplement where necessary. Remember, we are living in a modern day world full of all these harmful toxins and stresses. We need to perhaps consider the fact that it might be appropriate in providing a man-made solution in the form of supplements. Because the food you're eating is no longer as nutrient dense as it used to be. And in fact, it's full of dioxins, pesticides, plastics, and omega-6s as well, which is shown to be causing lower inflammatory markers in the body. So let's start with step 1, minimize exposure and support. So we can start with heavy metals. Heavy metals are absolutely everywhere, quite depressingly, but there are things you can do to minimize your exposure. For example, if you are eating and cooking foods with perhaps aluminium utensils, then you want to replace these with steel or cast iron. On top of that, you want to consider using Pyrex glass dishes when it comes to cooking instead of using your old aluminium trays and whatnot. You also need to get yourself a reverse osmosis water filtration system. This is going to help ensure that the water you're drinking is not full of any nasty additives or heavy metals such as arsenic, aluminium, mercury, or lead. And although government websites say they treat the water before it reaches your home, there is no way you can govern or monitor the condition of those pipes that the water has to travel through. There's even small levels of pharmaceuticals that have been picked up in certain water supplies. Whether this is in the US, Germany, UK, it's better to be safe than sorry and just make the investment of getting a reverse osmosis filter. And remember that the second step is to support. So now we need to support our glutathione. We also need to support our liver and our antioxidant system through vitamin E, vitamin C, and lopeic acid. Next up, EMF exposure, electromagnetic fields. These are everywhere. Obviously, most commonly, you have your phone, laptop, you have any Bluetooth device typically. Even the sockets in your wall can emit EMF, which is why we recommend to move your bed about 12 inches away from your wall if you have some sockets. There are things you can do, of course, to minimize that. So turn off all electrical devices when you sleep, and perhaps you could use grounding as a way to help discharge those negative ions within your body. There is a little bit of promising research with that. And we also know that EMF exposure impairs our body's ability to produce melatonin. So it's kind of like a double whammy effect. Typically, you're watching something on your phone, on your laptop, whatever it is, iPad, and then of course, because it's emitting EMFs, this is also having a negative effect on your body's ability to produce melatonin, as well as the blue light. So if you really want to start improving your sleep, minimize them, cut them out. Now, supplements that help protect against EMF exposure, you have your vitamin E again, vitamin C, but you also have your omega-3s, your healthy fats. You also got pollutants in your food. So you've got PCBs, dioxins, pesticides. Now, of course, we need to eat. So how are you going to minimize your exposure here? Well, the best general rule of thumb, I always say, is stick to the parameter of your food store when you're food shopping. Select whole food sources, avoid long ingredients lists, and use the grandma rule. So if your grandma can't pronounce it or doesn't recognize the ingredients, avoid eating that. Again, on top of that, avoid packaged foods as well, because the process in which they package it, they can often be contaminated with heavy metals or PCBs, and these are man-made chemicals and over 200 of them. So we need to be supporting here our glutathione, again, our liver function. So we have vitamin E, vitamin C again, there it is, vitamin B1, B3, niacin, thiamine. All of these will help protect your body and help it rid of these man-made chemicals and keeping it healthy and at peak performance. And lastly, you also have just chronic stress itself. I'm sure you know if you run a business like myself, it can be incredibly stressful if you do not put parameters in place and improve your stress capacity or stress management. So first and foremost, obviously, try to minimize your exposure to this chronic stress where possible. But I would actually argue it's better to improve your stress capacity by using hormetic stress protocols. So you have most commonly resistance training, you could use cardio, you could do saunas, cold plunges, they're very popular. Now on top of that, again, supporting glutathione. We've already mentioned it, NAC, B1, B3, zinc, selenium. And remember here to consume the foods that are high in these nutrients before consider supplementation, but it could be worth considering once you've actually got the fundamentals in place. So in summary, what we're saying here is high stress lives require higher amounts of micronutrients. It's important to emphasize that the healthy, balanced diet should be your starting place. But if you're someone that perhaps suffers from chronic fatigue, low levels of chronic inflammation, high stress, or regional deficiencies, then perhaps supplementation might be the answer for you.